Welcome to Overeaters Anonymous podcast number 10. This podcast will focus on individual stories of recovery. Throughout this podcast, we will be referring to Overeaters Anonymous by its acronym, OA. Joining us today is Joe.
Good afternoon.
Start off with, where are you from?
I was born in Indiana. Currently I live in Indianapolis, Indiana, real Midwesterner.
Tell us, what was your relationship with food prior to joining OA?
I don't know whether I was a normal eater, but I graduated high school at a normal weight, having never concerned myself with food or food issues. When I left home, I swore off religion, spirituality, church, God, everything that my dad might have said from the pulpit. And I believe today that left a hole in my being. And very shortly thereafter, I became a compulsive overeater. I assume trying to fill that hole.
Can you give us specific examples of how your eating was out of control?
I began to be concerned about my weight within a year after I left home. I put on 40 pounds in that first year, and kind of struck me as odd. I began to think about my girlfriend and I began to think about getting married, and we became concerned about my weight, bought a suit, immediately outgrew it. I had the suit altered, and then lost the weight. Then the suit no matter what we did, the suit didn't fit where I was at. That's when I began to see how food was affecting my life, and I began to try dieting. To a great degree, I spent the next 25 years of my life running either to the food or away from the food. 24 hours and 7 days a week, I was thinking about food. Whether if I was on a diet, even while I was successfully controlling the food, my mind was still in the throes of food thoughts. What other people were eating and how I wished I could have some of that. And as soon as I get off of this diet, I'm going to have some of that. Or if I had tried the diet, not made it the first day or made it 3 days and fell off, then I was beating myself up with guilt about being so small, weak, less than the rest of the world, that I couldn't even control something so mundane as the amount of food I put in my mouth.
How did you first hear about OA?
After my second marriage failed, and I believe that failure at my second marriage very possibly related to my emotional unavailability to my second wife, it occurred to me after my second marriage failed that possibly there were some minute things about my being that could use some adjusting, and that possibly a therapist could help me look at what some of those are so that I wouldn't continue to have these failed relationships in my life. And my higher power, being the quirky individual that he is, saw fit to plop me in the lap of an absolute 12-step freak, big book thumper to the nth degree, and she would not turn loose from it. Yes, you've got issues, and we'll work on them, but you need to go to OA. And that's how I found my way here. I came to shut her up.
Tell us about your first OA meeting.
The population of guys in OA is still pretty light. So when I went to my first meeting, there were 7 ladies in the room. They were all younger than me. A couple of them were prettier than me. They were all thinner than me. And I really was having trouble as the meeting progressed identifying with any of these ladies. But what I did hear was, when I walked in that room, I believed that I was the only person in the world who could possibly think like I thought about food as much and as often as I did, or to act like I did around food. And in that room, although I didn't identify with those ladies in particular, before I got gone, I heard these little glimmers of hope that I wasn't alone, and that at least occasionally some of these young ladies thought like I thought, ate like I ate, and had moved on past that. And I couldn't get loose from the fact that there was hope, that I wasn't alone anymore, and that one day I might also be able to live in a fashion where I wasn't 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in my head, in the food.
Tell us in particular what it was that you heard in that first meeting that made you want to come back.
As the meeting progressed, oftentimes when we have newcomers come to our meeting, the sharing moves back towards some of the earlier steps, 1, 2, and 3. And as they begin to share their stories, the first thing that appealed to me, I needed to hear the struggles in specific and in particular that these individuals were having or had had in their past with food. And it wasn't as much as I wanted to hear, and that was on purpose, I guess, to keep me coming back. But I did hear little glimpses and glimmers of their experiences with food. And I was so food focused when I got here, and so weight focused, that that's the kind of stories that I needed to hear, that know that I wasn't alone, and in these rooms I might find hope.
How long have you been a member of OA?
I began to come to OA, I believe it was early 1990. So this coming January, I have been around these rooms for about 20 years.
Joe, talk about the miracle of the freedom from the obsession of food.
I was blessed with a honeymoon abstinence shortly after I got here. By honeymoon in our fellowship, that means that there was this blissfulness surrounding the food that I had never experienced before in my life. And also, our label of it means that I really didn't do anything to earn this. It just happened just because my higher power knew that I was too thick-skulled to get this program if I didn't have a glimpse of what life looked like without my head in the food. The weight began to fall off. I was ecstatic beyond my wildest imagination. Of course, I wasn't working the steps. I didn't have a sponsor. I wasn't making daily phone calls. I wasn't using any of the tools we talk about other than going to meetings and reading the literature. And that's not enough for long-term recovery. So naturally, the food began to creep back in. I thought that when I got here that I was scared, hurt, and mad about food. But I really didn't know the true depth of scared until I saw what life was like without the food, and then I began to fall back into that abyss. Then and only then did I get scared, hurt enough to seriously entertain the idea of getting a sponsor. Shortly thereafter, out of the sky fell this person who said, I know a man who sponsors men in OA. And I asked him if he would entertain the idea of taking another sponsor, and he said, give him my phone number and have him call me. So I called this guy. Hello, is this John? He says, yes, it is. And I said, will you be my sponsor? Because I was scared. I mean, just that blunt, brutal. He said, how'd it be if we went to a meeting together and we have coffee afterwards and have a talk about it? But then I got a sponsor. That's when my long-term recovery began.
How is your life different today?
I have never ceased to be amazed how much more life is when you have 16 or 18 hours of mind capacity to apply towards life. There are so many more things that could get in. The relationships that you have, you're actually in the room with people, and you're available to them when they speak to you, and you can respond to them. And when I look back, it makes me kind of sad to think what I could have been.
How has your weight changed, and for how long have you maintained a healthy weight?
I have been maintaining a 50-pound weight loss for 16 and a half years. I am a lucky individual in that the day that I became abstinent, January the 12th, 1992, I have a very vivid memory of how that evening went, what happened, and what the next day was like, and every day since then. It took me about 6 months to reach the weight that I'm at today, and it's absolutely amazing to have like a whole closet full of clothes that you could go in and choose because it's cool, not because it's the only pair that I can button up, still breathe while I have them on.
Joe, in your mind, what is the best gift OA has given you?
My mind. There's a cute saying that I really liked. Of all the things I ever lost, I miss my mind the most. And there's a lot of truth to that, because I spent the first 25 years of my adult life with my head absolutely buried in a food fog. It's hard, I don't know whether you can really describe that food fog to someone who hasn't been in it. All of these thoughts you can spend your time thinking about. And during the time that you're doing that, you have very, very little to offer the rest of the world. And that includes your lovely dear children, your wives, your job. Everything in your life suffers from the fact that you are mentally unavailable, which means you're emotionally unavailable, and it just can absolutely eat up. I sincerely regret the fact that for the first 25 years of my adult life, that's where I spent my time.
Is there anything you'd like to add?
I occasionally say in meetings today that I've been abstinent for 17 years. I took a 17-year token on January the 12th this year. And I've been maintaining a 50-pound weight loss for 16 and a half years. And that is one of the lesser blessings that I have received from this program. I could go on with a list that takes about an hour, but a couple that come to mind immediately was that when I walked these doors the first time, I had been mad at my dad for 15 years. And thanks to this program and the steps and my sponsor, that resentment went away. No longer do I have to take 20 or 30 or 40 minutes of every day to grind my teeth about something that my dad did to me in 1964. When I walked through these rooms the first time, I had not spoken to my mother for 4 years. My dad had passed away. She was mad at him, and somehow or another that spilled over onto me, and I had labeled her toxic. And I was ready to let her go to her grave or me to my grave without talking to her anymore. After years of working with my sponsor, and the only way I was finally able to alleviate that thought was to go visit my mother. That was 10 years ago. It gives me goosebumps as I speak to tell you how pleased I am to know that she did better than what she was given, and that was her job. And hopefully I did better than what I was given as I raised my kids, and that was my job. And I've got a list of these things that have changed in my life that goes on for about 2 hours, but I'll let it go there.
Well, Joe, thank you for sharing your story with us today.
Well, thank you for asking me. It's been a pleasure. It's not often I get a captive audience.
Thank you for joining us for this podcast. For more information on Overeaters Anonymous, please go to www.oa.org or call the World Service Organization in the United States at area code 505-891-2664.